giving them weapons and giving them public support is one thing. But if you send American troops in there, as Ronald Reagan learned, it's a whole nother ballgame. Welcome back to the show. I'm Carl Cannon, Washington Bureau Chief of Real Clear Politics, talking now with Peter Berkowitz, regular columnist for Real Clear Politics, senior fellow at the Hoover Institution, former State Department official, and an expert on the Middle East. So, Peter, you're perfectly positioned because I want to talk about these developments. The letter President Trump sent to Iran, these negotiations with Hamas, and some of the threats he's made on social media. So let's start with the United States negotiating with Hamas. That's new. Some people are shocked by it. Some other people think it makes sense. What's your view?
So you're right that it's new, but what's new here is the direct negotiations. In other words, the United States has been a part of these multi-party negotiations that have been conducted with Hamas now since at least November 2023. These negotiations involve also Qatar, and they also involve Egypt. But Qatar and Egypt and the United States have worked as mediators between Israel and Hamas. But direct negotiations between the United States and Hamas, which, as Steve Witkoff, Special White House Envoy for the Middle East, has acknowledged, concern in the first place U.S. hostage. This is something new, and we have good reason to believe that information about these negotiations was actually leaked by the Israelis because they were upset with the one-sided character of it, that is, splitting the negotiations over Israeli hostages from negotiations over American hostages. Witkoff emphasizes that it's all part and parcel of the same negotiations, but naturally, the United States puts American hostages first. This is understandable, but still, it's troublesome to see a kind of opening between the United States and Israel in these negotiations.
Well, if President Trump negotiated the release of one American hostage and left Israeli hostages there, this would be a dual citizen hostage. I mean, that would not make the United States look very good. I can't think that's really their goal here.
Oh, I don't think it's their goal as well. And as you've indicated in the questions that you've teased us with, President Trump has on already a number of occasions said that there will be hell to pay if all the remaining hostages are not released. And we must make clear, when we say all the remaining hostages released, we mean there are now about 59 held. We mean about half who are alive, and the other half of whom are dead, are corpses to be released. Those are treated under the heading of hostages. But yes, I think you're right. All of President Trump's public statements have indicated that there will be hell to pay for Hamas if all of the hostages, Israelis and Americans, are not released.
Now he took to Truth Social, his version of Twitter, I guess we have to call it X now, and threatened Hamas like in sort of Trumpian language, all caps and schoolyard language, and at first it struck me almost as humorous, but then you think of the stakes involved. It's not funny. It's a very serious thing, and these are bloodthirsty people. But what are they supposed to take from that? Let me rephrase that. Can this possibly work? This tactic?
Possibly. Again, it depends on what lies behind the threat. There are strong indications already that President Trump means to make available to the Israelis all the weapons that they need to conduct their business. We know that the Biden administration withheld substantial amounts of weapons and also kinds of weapons to limit the Israelis' ability to seek out and destroy Hamas. So I suspect that what Trump has in mind is that he's going to unleash the Israelis to complete what is their announced war mission: eradicate Hamas as a fighting force and as a governing force.
Peter, I've done no reporting on this, and I have no inside knowledge. But I do know this: when those children, the Bibas kids, when we found out they had been killed and strangled, murdered by somebody by hand, this barbaric act, I was thinking, we have a president now. He has Jewish grandchildren. We've never had a president who has Jewish grandchildren. I wonder if he took this personally reacted in a personal way to it that has not been reported. That would make perfect sense.
First of all, Carl, you've written beautifully and movingly about the deaths of the members of the Bibas family and the reaction in Israel, and I think you're onto something. We have a photograph from a day or two ago of Trump surrounded by 8 released hostages. There is good reason to believe that for all of his bluster and bravado, that the plight of the hostages, Israeli and American, in Gaza Strip, held by the jihadist monsters, has deeply moved him, and if the hostages are not returned, he will accede to Israel's request, which is, please give us the weapons we need to finish the business of destroying the people who wish to destroy us.
You're listening to Peter Berkowitz, a columnist for Real Clear Politics, a senior fellow at the Hoover Institution, former State Department official. Peter, does this ever entail? I'm contemplating the use of American special forces, American troops against Hamas. President Trump has spoken about Gaza in ways that has surprised everybody, his own staff, the world. We're going to get rid of the Gazans and we're going to build. It's going to be the Riviera. Sort of pie in the sky stuff. But if you're talking about destroying Hamas and giving Israel cover, giving them weapons and giving them public support is one thing. But if you send American troops in there, as Ronald Reagan learned, it's a whole nother ballgame.
Yes, but the Israelis now are very experienced in engaging in urban warfare. It would be symbolically very significant if Trump sent American special forces to Gaza. But we should distinguish. Israel has, with American weapons, Israel has the fighting capabilities it needs in Gaza. The Iran case is entirely different. In regard to Iran, the United States has capabilities for striking Iran's nuclear facilities that Israel certainly does lack. So,
all right, wait a minute. I'll get to that in a minute. I want to ask you a Iran question, but I want to finish this thing about the hostages.
Very good.
Because you reminded me of something. Ronald Reagan nearly was impeached over the Iran-Contra scandal, and the roots of that scandal are, I won't, if you're a young listener and you're unfamiliar with it, Google it. But the roots of it were Reagan's. This is clear in Reagan's diaries. He felt these hostages, they were American hostages, in most of them in Beirut. It ate at him. It really galled him and it upset him and it caused him sleep. And I think we forget sometimes the human dimension with Reagan, with Bill Clinton. I talked to him about this when he was president. These hostages, presidents take it personally. They want to get those people back.
I think that's right, Colin. And I would add this. It seems to me one of the great failings of the Biden administration was not every day or almost every day to demand the release of all hostages and to demand Hamas's unconditional surrender. It was a big mistake for the United States to treat the war between Israel and Hamas as a war between two sides who merely had differences of opinion. The war between Israel and Hamas is a war between one side, Hamas, which wishes to destroy a sovereign nation state. There's no equivalency. There's no equivalent justice on both sides. We ought to have been demanding the return of hostages every day. And Trump, maybe not every single day, but has consistently, since he returned to the White House, been making the issue of the hostages, American and Israeli, a central issue of American foreign policy.
All right, now, I cut you off. I apologize for that. Let's go on to Iran, because the president now has sent this letter to the supreme leader of Iran. We don't know, as we're doing this show, we'll find out more on Saturday what exactly was in the letter, but it concerns Iran, apparently concerns Iran's nuclear capability. And I think the world has, excuse me, the world has seen that that's because Iran is the proxy of, Hezbollah and Hamas are proxies of Iran, that these people can't be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. That's kind of a consensus in the West. But how do you stop it? What do you do?
Yes. So, the Trump administration, the first Trump administration, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo took the lead here, imposed what we called a maximum pressure campaign on Iran. Very burdensome sanctions with a goal. The goal was to bring Iran back to the negotiating table on terms favorable to the United States. This is in contrast to the approach we believe that the Obama administration took. Now, there's more to that. It seems to me the Trump administration is perfectly justified in giving the Ayatollahs an opportunity to negotiate the dismantling of their nuclear program. But I want to add this. It will not be adequate unless these negotiations also include an end to sponsoring terrorism around the region and an end to their ballistic missile program, which threatens not only Middle Eastern countries but friends and partners in Europe as well. So I'm all in favor of negotiating with the Iranians from a position of strength, but we must add this. Position of strength means, pardon the cliche, the credible use of force if the negotiations break down. Apparently, the letter suggests that the Trump administration is prepared to use force if the negotiations break down.